I first bought Divinity Original Sin II several years ago to play with a few friends who had played it before but never finished it. Well, as is often the case when you have a group of adults trying to play the same co-op game while living in different cities, we never finished it either. We never got past Act 1, and I never touched it after that because I hadn't really been able to get into it. I didn't really get CRPGs, so I hadn't really been enjoying it that much. Years down the line, though, I have now played a lot of D&D, which got me into Baldur's Gate 3, which, as a CRPG, was when the genre finally started to click with me. So I decided to revisit Original Sin 2 after I finished Baldur's Gate, and I immediately got sucked in this time. I haven't played the few games in this series that released prior to this one, so going in with zero franchise context, the premise is basically that anyone who can use Source, which is magic, is rounded up and sent off to a concentration camp island called Fort Joy by the Magisters, who are basically a cross between the Knights Templar and the Gestapo. This is because sorcerers, as they're called, are blamed for the appearance of Voidwoken, giant monster bugs from another dimension. It's believed that using Source attracts the Voidwoken, so the Magisters have to contain you for the good of the world, they claim. You and up to 3 of the 6 main characters set off on an attempt to break the collars that prevent you from using your powers, hijack a Magister ship, and escape Fort Joy. As with most CRPGs, you have a number of ways of getting yourself to that end goal, and as with most of the games of any genre that I play, I chose to go full chaotic good and murder every single Magister I saw, because they're basically just fantasy Nazis. That's Act 1. The 3 subsequent acts have you investigate the powers calling the shots, and eventually, because this is the end game of almost every RPG, opposing the big bad evil guy and saving the world. Now, my game disc obviously says Xbox One, but I only ever actually played the upgraded Series X version, so that's all I can personally attest to. But on Series X, it looks and runs beautifully. I've seen footage of the Switch and Switch 2 versions, and while the Switch version definitely looks like one to avoid with how blurry it is with all the visual cutbacks they made and the big drop to frame rate, it looks like it was a pretty solid port on Switch 2, so Nintendo gamers aren't left out in the cold unless you haven't upgraded to the current system yet. I think Switch 2 actually seems to be like a pretty ideal platform for this kind of game, because this is a beefy RPG that took me around 80 hours to beat, and being able to play anywhere I find myself with a little time would be a big boon. It is sadly only available digitally on Switch and Switch 2, unless you just want to cough up $175 for a copy of limited run Switch printing, although prices are all over the place. I saw one for $530 today. Digital games are increasingly unavoidable these days, especially with Sony. When you start the game, you can either choose one of those 6 pre-existing main characters to play, or you can make your own custom character. Most people on Reddit seem to suggest picking a pre-made character, because that way you get to go through 4 character-specific quest lines instead of only 3, but I always go with a custom character when it's an option. Since I just finished Baldur's Gate 3, I pretty much just remade my character there. The Dragonkin Vorkath Ironscale became the Lizard Vorkath the Virtuous. I definitely get the point that the folks on Reddit were making when they suggested using a pre-made character, but for me, a big part of my immersion in an RPG is playing a character that's my own creation. So that's always going to be the preferable option for me personally, even if that means there's a couple of quests I miss out on. If you don't have any experience with CRPGs like Baldur's Gate, the old school Fallouts, or Tides of Numenera, Divinity Original Sin 2 might take some acclimation to get a feel for. It definitely did for me. However, after having played Torment, Tides of Numenera, and Baldur's Gate 3, I really started to appreciate the genre, and I was able to get fully immersed in Original Sin 2 this go-around. It's not a masterpiece. I did run into a few bugs where I had to quick load to get around them, and the quests are a bit too easy to miss and lock yourself out of, for my taste, but the game is excellent. It's definitely got me eyeing eBay for a copy of the previous Original Sin game. My rating for Divinity Original Sin II on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Switch, Switch 2, Mac OS, and PC is an A.